that there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one I'd like to start out with. I've been very curious about this, and a lot of people wanted to know. How do you go about deciding which franchises make it in? Could you explain the process and, without, if you're allowed, some that you'd like to add or some that have been wanting to add but tricky to add?
I'm going to start with this one. Have you ever heard of the Thunderdome?
Yeah.
Right, where all the franchises come in and only one franchise comes out. That's ultimately how we settled through 20 rounds of discussion on the over 20 worlds that we have featured in game. No, the reality is obviously our friends and partners at NBC Universal, they have a huge tent of really beloved characters and worlds. And when we first knocked on their door with a very intimidating request like Funko Fusion of we want to take all of those characters and worlds and break them and then allow for them to basically go world to world, you could imagine that would be a pretty meaty conversation, but the reality is they've been wonderful collaborators, and it was always ever a conversation around how do we do this, not can we do this. So yeah, they've been just hyper generous.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing, I think, because there was an existing relationship with Universal from before times. That makes things so much easier, and rather than a door you have to knock down, it's an open door and it becomes creative. So we end up having conversations around like, okay, this IP is going in, what can we do that makes it cooler, rather than can we have this and fighting over it. And you only have to look at the game. You've got that wealth, everything from things like Umbrella Academy and Scott Pilgrim through to The Thing and Battlestar Galactica and Jurassic World and He-Man. It's just the lot, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot of, it's complicated, as you can imagine, but like to be able to be gifted those tools to play with as a creative team, like that's joyful.
Thank you.
In terms of wish lists, though, like stuff we still want to see. Again, none of this is confirmed. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody other than my own personal fandom. But I'm hardcore. My favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future 2. So I would personally love to see Marty 2015 in there. But that's me lobbying at the table, not necessarily something that's slated or planned.
Yeah. So during the panel, you guys talked a little bit about how you work with creatives who are fresh onto the market. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is like?
Yeah, that's something that's dear to my heart. Like I've been making games back in the UK, obviously, but been involved in making games since the mid-90s, and I've seen how hard it is to get into the industry. And obviously we now have kids that go and study at colleges and then at universities to get into games, but there's no doors open to them. Like there are no junior level roles, and I don't know if that is something over here as well, but in the UK it's a real problem. So like right from day dot we said, yes, we have like a senior team that have made loads of great games together, like Lego ones previously. But like we can make a real change. We can, as a studio, building a studio, we can almost be game changers. We want to be the pin-up studio, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, over half of our team, this is their first game.
That's
We had a kid, and I call him a kid because he's younger than my 5, right? But like I met Harry at 18 when I was doing a talk at a college. And I needed someone to just come in and do some like testing. So I offered him an internship for like 2 months. His level of Unreal knowledge was mind blowing. So I literally sat him down and said like, tonight I want you to go home, speak to your mum and dad, and tell them you've got an option to not go to uni. And I gave him a full-time job. 2 years later, he's now a mid-level designer. He's been integral to at least 2 of the levels in Funko Fusion. And it shows that it works, and I think more studios need to take that approach of like take a punt on people, take a chance on people. It's how I got my job, like way back in the 90s. Someone literally took a chance on me, and you just grab it, and like people grab it, and they are so enthusiastic because they've got a chance. And do you know what? They have an energy that like keeps me young, right? I'm not really that young, but it kind of keeps me young. So hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, and if anyone else has anything, chime in.
I would basically agree with Arthur. In my experience, and I've seen this with lots of friends, and even in the earliest of my days getting into this world, this industry, it's impossible to get experience to land the job, and it's impossible to get the job to land experience, right? It really comes down to people taking a chance on you. And so even in my journey and story, that has happened several times over, and I'm just infinitely grateful to be sitting here, really again, not to get, again, too highfalutin here, but really on the shoulders of other people that were willing to extend the arm, right? So we feel very similarly on the Funko side. It's one of the things that we love and treasure about the relationship with the 1010 Games team is that they are being mindful about what's going into the product, but more specifically how they are making that product. It just really connects for us because we are all about fun, friends, family, community, and really, I mean, it shows in the product, right? The folks that are making it legitimately care about what we are curating as a feeling in the game, and ultimately the community that we are speaking to. So.
Yeah, probably can't add much, but yeah, the industry we work in is can be exclusionary at times. So working with a team that is inclusionary is like a breath of fresh air, and it really adds a lot. And you can see it in the execution. So we're really happy with the way they approach the business, the way they built their team, and the way they love the IPs because they were fans of these films, and these IPs, and Funko Pops from the start.
Very cool, thank you.
Cam Proctor from Big Gold Bell Media. What were some difficulties that were presented to you when trying to bring together such an intricate game like this?
Well, I'll start from a development standpoint. So some of the difficulties with this were, believe it or not, we were trying to build a studio while trying to build a game. My experience previously at TT Games was like obviously working on the Lego games, where you're going from one to another, and you almost, like I got to the point where I almost took it for granted, like how hard it is to get a character to run and move and jump and feel good just through a controller. So obviously we started 1010 Games, there was literally 3 of us in a cardboard box. We then were building a studio. We were then also trying to build a game from nothing, and so we had to get a Funko Pop and figure out, well, how does a Funko Pop move? How does it how does a Funko Pop jump and run and interact, and how does that feel good? So it's almost like starting from scratch. So all that experience you've then got to just try again, and that was hard. Like the first year was tough because we were doing stuff that we'd never done, and also learning Unreal because we previously used our own engine, and it's like, it's just an engine, it's fine. It's like, whoa, okay. It's like bang, brick wall. But Epic have been amazing. We went on the Unreal 5 beta program. We had so much support from them. And the final product just shows, what hard work and dedication does, I guess. So for me, it was all development difficulties, because the creative process is I find that the easy bit, because hey, guess what? I'm a fan of this stuff. But that's from me. I don't know about you guys.
It's a wonderful thing to be partnered with incredible creative minds. It also means that you have a wealth of ideas to play with, right? And even the volume of those ideas is sometimes, I spoke, I think, a little bit about this on the panel. Like Arthur and I were just riffing this morning about additional things that we could still add to the game. That is a perfect reflection of how do you take all of those ideas and ultimately start building towards an action plan, right? What are the things that are important and critical, whether they be from a storytelling perspective or a gameplay perspective or something in between, and then making sure that you build the crawl, walk, run to the final experience. So it's not so much a challenge, it's just, it's a responsibility to make sure that we hit the right beats and we take all of these incredible ideas and hone them into an actionable plan.
Ours was just making sure that the IPs were represented correctly, that Funko was represented correctly, and then the gamer was represented correctly, and then filmmakers just understanding what they understand the Funko characters and they love them, but what the Funko universe around their characters could do and not do. It was a bit of education, but they were on board from the start, and just making sure that all 3 aspects of what we just talked about hit in all cylinders. At the end, everybody was really happy, but there's a lot of learning curves in understanding what a Funko universe of Jaws and Amity or in Mo Tuesday, it's just what it was actually going to be and what the rules were behind that. But the gamer needs to be represented at all times, and they are in this game. So we're really excited about it.
Actually, that's an interesting point, which is not every stakeholder on the NBC Universal side necessarily understood what Funko Pop was, nonetheless, how those rules work, right? Because it's not necessarily a one-to-one faithful adaptation of what you see on screen. It is its own stylized cartoon version of those IPs with a lot more tongue-in-cheek baked into it. So it may be appropriate for a Marty McFly to do something that he didn't necessarily do in the film, but because it's a good gag in the game, how do we ultimately get some of our friends over on the NBC Universal side to understand that like there's some room to play. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's not totally outside of the ballpark, right?
It did take the filmmakers long to realize that every clock in the game says 10:10.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, so look, some of those Easter eggs that are in there are like we put stuff in and go. Will people notice? Will people not notice? Like, will you see this thing here? Will you see this thing there? There's little Easter eggs everywhere. There's actually our offices in the game somewhere. I don't think anyone's ever found it yet. So I've just spilled the beans, John. So.
I'll give away a little bit of that too, because on the physical product side, right, we have also hidden Easter eggs in the physical product. The only one I'm going to give you here on the table is that Eddie Funko, our titular villain. If you're familiar with Funko box taxonomy, there's a number in the top corner. It just so happens that his number is 1010.
Yep. Yeah, there's loads. There's loads of really fun things in there, and like we can't wait to. Like I love watching people play the game, so like I can't wait for September the 13th. I will be watching people play the game. Just not in a creepy way. That sounded really weird.
Just outside their personal residences at their windowsill.
There's cameras now.
Came across as creepy.
Yeah, I can't help it.
The
Sorry.
game's watching you back.
Yeah.
Just how did it feel to finally reveal it? You know, you guys have been working on this for so long, and then you come to Comic-Con, get the panel, you guys have the display out on the exhibit hall. Just kind of, how does that finally, you get to show your baby off that way?
I'm going to start, which is, thank goodness the panel camera wasn't on me as the Eddie trailer was playing, because I am just that guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I was completely welled up in a moment of pride, right? It's such a wonderful thing to be on a 3-year journey with incredible partners that you trust. It's one thing to build something and get geeked up about it every single day. It's another thing entirely to put that thing in front of strangers and say, look,
Do you like my baby?
Yeah.
Like it's literally that moment of like we think we did the right thing. We think, we hypothesize, we plan, we discuss, we like converse. We focus test. We do loads of work behind the scenes, and you think you're doing the right things, and you're drawing on previous experiences, and then just to finally sort of like lift the lid and go, what do you think? Like, you're kind of like hoping it's great, and the reaction was terrific, which is really, really good. And I think that's like, my phone was going like crazy during the panel. I don't know how people in the office were seeing stuff or hearing stuff, but like there was ping, 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 and I was just like my arm was buzzing, my phone was in my pocket buzzing, and that's great because the people in the office, like the team, are so excited. Again, because some of them have never released a game. And like, oh my god, someone's talking about this, and like, oh, my level's featured here, or like my character this, and it's just great. It's great to have that buzz from the team, and then it's also great to actually have people just go, you know what, that game looks great. And I actually took a moment on the panel, a bit like Jason. I sat back when one of the trailers played, and I just whispered to John, I went, this game looks real. And I know that sounds like I've made over 30 games, right? But like, it felt real. I've done panels for previous games, and to be sat here with Funko Fusion, because this is so personal to all of us, because it's such a, like, we've invested so much time in this creatively, and so much energy, to see it come out and then come to fruition. I think, like, it's now real. That sounded really, really weird. I've never said stuff
Sounded
like that.
real?
That sounded real.
Like, there's a little lump there, and I'm like, dude, don't even think about that. Like,
I think for the Universal side, it's just pride. Like the way that everything's represented, the IPs are represented, the way the game was executed. A little bit of exhaustion because you have so many filmmakers and so many stakeholders, like everything, keeping everybody quiet. because they're aware of Funko Pops and they're really like, but them not saying to somebody that there's a game coming out that they're involved with, and finally being able to now they can say it was a big relief. But yeah, we were proud. It was probably we were really proud of that game.
I was just gonna say, is there a personal Funko Pop or a series of pops that spoke to each of you while you're creating this game, used as inspiration, something you maybe had on your desk, or just something in general that you kind of reference regularly when you're kind of doing the game?
Yeah, anyone like when I do Teams calls or whatever, like people can see like there's a few pops behind me. What they can't see is the fact that there's like I think I have 110 He-Man pops. Right, I don't have them all. I have most of them. Like they're all behind me.
But just He-Man. It's just 110 He-Mans.
Yeah.
110 He-Man.
But then on the wall that people don't see is almost like a little bit of me. So I have Duran Duran pops, Legally Blonde, Goonies, Miami Vice, The Boys. Like there's a load of like weird eclectic stuff there. And then back at home, like I have all my ad icons, my Fraggle Rock. I'm a pop collector at heart. I always have been, and I think that's why this is special to me. So I don't look at one particular pop. I just always have a pop box nearby, because that for me is what sums up Funko Pop. Is like this eclectic mix. Is like that's my expression of me. So people come in my office and go, "Wow, that's a load of He-Man stuff." It's like, you must really like He-Man. It's like,
Yeah, you do.
well, funny you should say that. But that and that's how I see this. This whole journey is like we've always had pops, right? I've always had pops in my office. That's my expression. And I think across our studio, like people have started that journey. Because some people were maybe not into pops. That they're an artist and they come to make video games. It's like, well, yeah, but you're gonna like pops.
Right.
We will brainwash you. You guys are alright. You all like pops, but we're gonna brainwash you. And now it's like everyone's a little expression of themselves. It's lovely. But yeah, I like to hold a pop, because when you're conversing with someone, it's like it's a good thing to interact with, and it's a physical, tactile thing. But yeah, we didn't really cover it on the panel, but like that level of Funko integration that like probably you and I have worked on most is like there is everything Funko in the game. There are sodas, there are soda bottles, there are Funko pop boxes. That's how you change